Therefore I employ that word for the purpose, or for the strengthening, of, it is just as I say, it is the truth. It is actually so, it is accurate. Edward says, that is evident. But now I want to come back once again to your teaching, said more precisely, to your text, which indeed is now being written down by Judas Iscariot. You said that it remains preserved up to my time. Thus it must, in my time, be therefore hidden somewhere. Can you tell me where it is located, and can I fetch it from there? Jmmanuel says, truly, I know where it will be, and I will tell you the precise place at a later point in time. But it is not intended that you will fetch the text prematurely from the place where it will be hidden, nor is this intended for any others. Edward says, shame, but I will not defy the determination. Jmmanuel says, you are truly very learned in things of the spirit and thinking as well as in regard to responsibility. In this way, you are very far in advance of my time, just as, however, you also live more than 3 millennia ahead of your own time in regard to the knowledge of the Spirit. Therefore you will have very great need in your time, because the understanding, possessed by the humans of your time, of truthful knowledge of the Spirit, will, as in my time, still be in its very beginnings. Edward says, how far advanced of your time are you then in regard to spiritual thinking? Jmmanuel says, I live, in this way, in approximately your actual future time. Edward says, you mean that, in respect of spirit consciousness evolution, you correspond to a position relating to about the year 1953, but that cannot be true, because the humans of this time, which is indeed my time, are only positioned at the very beginnings insofar as spiritual evolution is concerned, as you indeed just said yourself. But there is something not right there. Or? Jmmanuel says, truly, you think correctly. But you have not correctly interpreted what I said. I said, I live in approximately your actual future time. Edward says, oh, that is the way it is. Now I understand. You thereby mean that in regard to your development, and so on, calculated in your time, you live in my future time, therefore roughly calculated as about the year 2000? But, you did indeed say that of me, and thereby you position yourself at the same stage as me. But you have spoken of more than 3,000 years in regard to me. I am supposed to be advanced, by this number of years, in spiritual development in relation to the real time of the year 1953. Is that not quite grossly underestimated for you? Jmmanuel says, you truly do not consider the space of time which lies between your time and mine. These are 2 millennia, and you have turned back into the past by around this much time. From this time, in which I live here, I am advanced in my spiritual evolution already by about 2,000 years, while you are about 3,000 years advanced of your real time. So therefore our spiritual development is truly not the same in my current and in your normal time. You are, in real life, about 2,000 years further advanced than myself, and are indeed already 3,000 years advanced of your own time in your spiritual development. Truly it is calculated in such a way that you, in your time, and I in my time, do not display a common level of spiritual development. But, for me, you live in the distant future in your real time of 1953, so, 2,000 years in the future. But my spiritual development is truly further developed by this amount of time. When you therefore return to your time, you are advanced in your spiritual development by more than 3,000 years and therefore do not possess the same spiritual level as I possess here in my time. But in your time, my spirit form already has again 2,000 years of development time behind it and has experienced it, so, in your time, it will then be further advanced in all spiritual respects by about 3,000 years, because it is very quick in spiritual development as a result of its own process of the repetition of the evolution of billions of years, all really run through once. Consequently, the level of my spiritual evolution in the year 1953, where you indeed also live, will also correspond to your level of spiritual evolution. Note from Billy: unfortunately, Jmmanuel's explanatory sentences 202 to 212 are given in a very meager form, and additionally, with a precondition that two humans have conversed here, whose meager utterances were sufficient for understanding. But furthermore, the interpolations and the provisional appraisals emerged in pictorial thought forms, whereupon everything seems quite incomprehensible and confusing to the uninitiated. Therefore the following comes forth from the entire explanation: Jmmanuel's level of spiritual evolution in the year 32 corresponds to Billy's normal level of spiritual evolution in the year 1953. However, Billy, Edward Albert Meier, in this time, on his part, is already again more than 3,000 years further advanced, and consequently again more than 3,000 years in advance of Jmmanuel's spirit form in overall spiritual evolution. Edward says, "Now I understand the things perfectly." The end.